for people that may not still be familiar with licensed weddings. What is it in a nutshell? How do you introduce the book?
Wow, in a nutshell, huh?
In one sentence.
Exactly. It's Succession meets White Lotus in England.
Yes. And Hawaii too.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
Right.
globetrotting, but essentially the story is about a British Chinese family, right? Where I really flipped the fairy tale because now it's the male, the man, the heir to this fortune has found out that the fortune's crumbling, and so he's tasked, with the duty of restoring the family fortune. And the only way he can do that is by finding a rich woman.
Which is the easiest solution, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So I really have fun with, with that trope of, it's really upending the usual fairy tale narrative of how it's always the woman in distress that has to find the man.
Right. What's your favorite character? Who do you relate to the most?
Wow. Who do I don't I don't feel like I relate to any of these characters on that much of a personal level,
Right.
they're quite extreme.
Eden is almost kind of normal.
Yeah.
Right?
I would suppose I would relate to her in a way the most because she's an outsider to this world looking in.
Yes.
And I always feel that way myself too. I get to peek into these crazy rich worlds, whether they're in England or in the US or in the Philippines, and look in and then really also see the stories behind the stories, right? So there's a Filipino character in this book,
Yes.
Luis Felipe,
Yes.
right, who is born with way too much money, right? And his problem is that he's been too overindulged his whole life. And it leads to, circumstances that, go out of control.
It crosses different borders, like I said. When you talk about families, it's really the same issues, whether rich or poor, whether in Asia, whether in England, whether anywhere around the world, right? And so I think that's why people relate to the book. What do you want people to get out of it?
I never try to impose my point of view. I tell these stories, and there's a great range and spectrum of different stories within the books. And everyone is invited to take away what they want. There are lessons there, but it's up to you to decide what is important to you and what really stays with you. I would never want to say, oh, you must, this is the one takeaway I want.
Yes.
There are many takeaways, and that's the fun of a book. You really absorb it in different ways. Your
Perception,
experience
right?
and your perception also affects how you read and enjoy a book, whether you're Filipino or whether you're from England or whether you're from Japan. Your cultural background, interacts with these characters.
Yes.
Right, and your prejudices also interact. And so,
Also, the way we were brought up, the way
Exactly.
we interacted with our parents, it's very much a
Truly.
part of the book, right?
No, I've had people tell me your books are so triggering, in a good way, but
Right.
also like I think of my mother, I think of my father, or you think of your relationships with your family,
Yes.
because at the heart of it, it's about family,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
And as you said, that's universal.
And so-
No matter where you're from, you have to contend with all the issues of being part of a family.
And with that said, what are you most proud of about this book?
I think really the reader response, right? The fact that this book has become beloved by so many people. It really has, I feel so lucky and privileged that people have connected the story and they love the characters, and they're recommending the book. And now it's going to be a movie, so hopefully, that will really also help amplify just the stories.
Yes, and you mentioned about that, so I wanted to touch on that too. Talk to us about the excitement about this being a movie, director, timelines, filming.
Yeah.
When can we expect it?
No, it's very exciting. They haven't officially announced it yet, so I can't I can't reveal too much. But
Okay.
it's funny how fast things are going. We are trying to really finalize on a screenwriter that will adapt the book,
Right.
and I think they hope to make it really next year.
And how do you think this is kind of capitalizing on the success of Crazy Rich Asians as a book, the trilogy, and also as the movie?
I think it's an extension of the brand, right? I think I've really built an amazing global audience,
Yes.
in 40 languages around the world. And people are so excited, every single day I get asked.
Yes.
When is the sequel coming? When is a new movie coming? And
So when is the sequel of Crazy Rich Asians? It's going to be, there's going to be a
TV series
Yes.
now with HBO Max.
Yes.
So that's under development, and hopefully, they'll start filming soon, right?
Yes.
So that's very, very exciting. We're also doing Crazy Rich Asians, the musical, for Broadway
I heard that
with
too.
John Chu. So
Yes.
there's all these amazing, balls in the air. And hopefully, we'll see which one ends up in the hoop first. Yeah.
Anything else, and other storylines perhaps that maybe after Lies and Weddings you are thinking of developing, or are you already writing?
There's so many stories, right, that I want to tell. And there's so many book ideas and TV ideas. There's a movie idea. I wrote a original script that's set in the Philippines.
Okay.
So,
yes.
we're also trying to make that into a movie, right? So I feel so supported by the fans, right? The fans want this, and certainly, I always say Filipinos are my super fans.
Oh, I love
They
that.
truly are.
Yes.
They've been supportive from day one, even before the movies. They've embraced the books, the characters, and so this was my, the whole plan was to give back to them.
Right, because in a way your characters are also can be Filipinos.
Exactly, and they are.
Right.
And they often are in the books, and hopefully, we can make a movie that really honors that. I think you are the most hospitable people in the world, truly.
thank
and
you.
I've traveled a lot.
Thank you for saying that.
And there's nothing compares.
Right,
Truly,
right.